Welcome back, everybody. We're here with another episode of the CLOL Files just a couple of days before the top four goes and takes place out in sunny Los Angeles, California. I'm Grapes. I'm joined alongside a player from Winthrop University in Mobility. Mobility, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I remember our messages a little bit earlier on, and we were originally going to schedule to do this earlier, but you actually had a pretty important thing to do before we actually got on camera and talked. Do you want to explain what that is?
Okay. Well, I was just waiting till like the last day to get a haircut. 'Cause I didn't want to get a haircut a week earlier and then have to get one right before we leave as well. So I just had to accept looking homeless for a little bit so I could make it makes sense to not just get two haircuts for no reason.
So would you say your appearance was just not good for camera at that point?
Oh yeah, it
Like a
was
couple days
horrible.
ago. All right. I actually got a haircut today too, so we're kind of on the same wavelength. I think things are going well. So,
Hey, you're looking
uh,
good, man.
hey, yeah, you too, man. Yeah, you too. So, looks like you're all ready. I think you're flying out to LA actually like around the time that this video gets released tomorrow morning. But let's take a step back before we start talking about you and Winthrop in the top four because you have a pretty interesting story over the past 12 months. I mean, you started playing competitive about a year ago. If you want to kind of tell the story of like how you started playing League, how you got into competitive, and what that experience was like.
Yeah, I got into playing League from my cousin named Tyler. He got me and all my other cousins who also play video games. All of us kind of just cousins and friends that I've known for a while. We all just got into League, and that was around season three when I was 12, I think. I think I was in like fifth grade. I started playing League, and I never had the chance of playing League after all these years under 100 ping.
Oh
So I was
wow.
always just on 100 ping. And when I was 16, I went to a friend's house. I just drove all like 13 hours by myself to a friend's house in Tennessee, brought my PC, and when I was 16 and I hit GM in like a week. I just basically went there and just played on his internet and barely
Oh,
hung
you
out. But
just
I was just trying to play on like good ping, and he had like 30 ping, like normal, like pretty good ping. So
yeah.
I went there and I got like 300 or 400 LP in a week, and then I left, and I was like, that was whenever I thought in my head, I was like, okay, I feel like the ping is just, I don't know. I never wanted to like put full effort into 100 ping, trying with 100 ping. So once I played on that low ping and I realized like what I always thought was like I could go pro or like be really good and get high rank. I just knew like after that, yeah, after the ping. And I think around last year was season 12, so like around right before the season started in January, my I finally got like we moved, me and my family moved, and I got real ping finally.
Yeah.
So I was able to have around 50 ping, which still isn't like amazing, but better than 100 ping. And then I was like the first 20 people to hit Challenger, just right off the rip, it just hit Challenger instantly. And then I was the first 20 people to hit 1,000 LP. And then around March, so 2 months after just being in 1,000 LP and just playing, I put LFT in my name on League. Um,
So the DMs just start
and
coming in after that.
yeah, I got a bunch of DMs. And I also around that same week as the same time in March, it was my birthday, March 9th, and I got a new PC.
Nice.
That So I was streaming a little bit and then I did LFT because I always like obviously I always wanted to go pro. But I just wasn't like I wasn't marketing myself or doing anything
Yeah.
at all. So I did LFT, started streaming, and then I think literally the day I put LFT in my name, I think like an hour later I got two or three DMs from two or three different people asking for tryouts for yeah, like two, three different orgs. And from there it was with Team Ambition, I think was my first team.
Yeah.
That was an interesting experience. But then like I'd say think it was like beginning of April, Tempest Gaming.
Yeah.
One of the coaches that we tried out on Team Ambition, Coach Jad Hyphy. He was gonna go coach for Tempest, and he thought I was really good, and he just seen that I was kind of on a bad team. Um, so he asked me to come. He asked me to come to Tempest Gaming and build a team around me, and that was the start. I think I was with Tempest for a few months, and we went
Yeah.
through OQs and went through all that. That was a beating.
I feel like you're like taking the training weights off. Like every new thing, you get to play on like lower ping, and then you get to get the new PC. Like how big of a difference like really was that? Like just getting the experience of like the like kind of really playing League of Legends in a way.
Oh, I was having there was a bunch of like personal things going on, so it was hard. Like I was going through a bit of a struggle with like family, IO things, financial stuff like that. At the same time, and I kind of just stuck through it, and I was just like, I think I can go pro. I hit top 20 as soon as, like I said, I hit top 20 as soon as I got real internet and the season started, and then it just kind of kept going, and things slowly got better.
Yeah, I mean that's an awesome mindset to have. I feel like that's something that I've seen from you, kind of just throughout the last couple of years. And so, Tempest Gaming. I remember looking at that roster and seeing your name. I don't know who this mobility guy is, and I check his solo queue accounts. Like, oh my god, like 1200 LP, like that's crazy. But you ended up playing there for a little bit. You made it into the top 16 for the PGCQ, which was pretty cool. Um, I mean, what's kind of the difference initially between just grinding solo queue, streaming, and playing competitive, especially as an AD carry?
I think whenever I first started, it was really hard to be a leader or talk at all or to have any. I didn't really know the game. I'd say the difference is, I think the biggest jump in League of Legends is from challenger to pro,
Yeah.
rather than like any other rank like plat to diamond, anything like that. The difference in being a pro compared to a challenger player is huge. So over this entire time, I'd say that's been the biggest jump from just going from like streaming in solo queue to actually having to like learn League of Legends for real, not just being challenger.
So like that, this is real League of Legends that you're playing now. Before it was just kind
Yes.
of some other game. All right, cool.
Yeah, I'd say for like all of 2022, I was playing like fake League of
Fake
Legends.
League. Then I've been playing like real fake League my whole life. So I mean, I guess that's that. Of course, you played with a couple teammates that you're still playing with now in Denethor and Frost Forest on Tempest. After the summer split, you ended up joining Winthrop University. What was that experience like? Did you always know you wanted to go towards collegiate, or was it kind of just some sort of recruiting process that made you make this decision?
Honestly, it was the only financial decision I could make.
Yeah.
I had no want to play collegiate. Like to be honest, I didn't really know much about collegiate. Didn't really like keep up with the amateur scene. Uh, so whenever I got the offer, I was just like, I mean, this is literally the only way to have any kind of ability to financially be fine or stable enough to sit here and play League. Because, like I said, at that time in last summer, it was not good
Yeah.
when it comes to like where I was, like at home. So I came here and I was just able to have stability and like actually be able to wake up and go play League and not have to worry all the time.
Yeah, what was the process like of figuring out that like Winthrop was a good option for you? Was it somebody like Frost Forest, or were there other people involved in like helping you decide to go there specifically?
Uh, I think the roster was just really good. Like I knew I wanted to play with Denethor, because at the time I thought he was really good, and I just thought me and him would win championships together and build together and be together, and I didn't really want any other top. So I'd say me and him talked throughout the processes of different other colleges that we were maybe thinking of going to and building a team. But then we both decided that Winthrop is the best option, and we did also play with Chan Frost Force, so it would be we just thought it was the best option available.
Awesome. Yeah, and you guys played a little bit there with Winthrop, but then all of a sudden you're not part of Winthrop anymore for a little bit at the start of 2023. You get a call from Evil Geniuses. You're playing in the NACL. What was that offseason experience like, and just the quick jump from like being a solo queue player to being in NACL, the level right below LCS, in just like 6 months or so?
Yeah, I thought I was good enough for Academy last year. Like obviously now I think I was like really bad, but in my head I had a lot of Academy um sorry, I'm blanking. Had a lot of Academy tryouts and other orgs that were going to be in NACL
Hmm.
tryouts, and I was smashing people in all of the tryouts. I Everybody had the consensus that I was good, but none of the teams wanted to pick me up.
You think it
And
was just like a lack of experience or something
yeah,
else?
right. That's what I was gonna get to is I had the mechanics somewhat. I'd say I had like the mechanics and I was able to beat the other 80 carries, but I had no comms. I had no like actual game knowledge. I had no nothing. I was just mechanically good. And I think in NA, it's kind of like I think in NA they definitely favor a player that bring like maybe not the mechanics as much, but a player that brings positivity, comms, knows what he's talking about. It's like a whole package rather than just mechanics. So I learned that once I went to EG, I learned actually that was my weaknesses. And I learned, I mean, I realized how bad I was as soon as I went to EG, but that's for the next question.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess building off of that, you played with a lot of really experienced, really talented players, so had some really great coaching staff over there as well, as a part of Evil Geniuses. I mean, as somebody coming in as like a really new talent, and as you said, somebody with a lot of things that like you were looking to improve on going in. What was that experience like working with some of those players, working with some of those coaches throughout the season?
Yeah, it was, I don't think people realize how much I leveled up
Yeah.
going there. Whenever I went there, I just got an instant like smack in the face, like I'm terrible. Like the first couple scrims, it was just like obvious, like even the first week or two, I'd say like I was just still really bad. And for the first until I went, it was also hard. Like the first week, I was playing on like 70 ping, 80 ping, the first like week, so it was
Right. Yeah.
a bit difficult. But once I got flown out there and got like actually in the apartment and got the experience of being in the facility and being around the coaches and actually everybody like it was the first time I really experienced like everybody just talks about league and it's like league and people are really serious, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that was my first experience in that, and then after as the weeks went on, I think around week 3 or 4, there was like shout out to Smoothie. He was an amazing just person to me and mentor on everything. I'd say like there was one time it was around the week or 3 or 4, and which changed everything was we were having like a bad scrim set, and he just took me outside of the EG facility, and we just sat down and had a talk. Um, he was just It was just having one of those blunt talks that just
Yeah.
it was one of those things that just had to happen. Like, if I'm playing at this level, then I just don't think we can win. It was one of those, but the main thing that he said was that he wouldn't give up on me, and that was all I needed to hear because I was having like a bad stretch and I felt like I was getting given up on by other players on the team. And he kind of he said he doesn't care what the other players think. He's not going to give up on me, and he wanted me to be better. And from then, I think after every single instantly the scrims get I don't take it personally whenever I get flamed.
Yeah.
So he was able to like we had a good chemistry going to where he could flame me and I actually was able to flame him back on some things. Not really. I didn't blame him too much obviously, but
Yeah. No, it's
it was
criticism. Constructive
we
criticism.
we
That's
were
all it
able to
is.
just be completely blunt with each other and how we think matchups works, everything goes, and it was just a great chemistry of like after every single trade, after every single thing, after every single scrim, after every single match, we just sat there for an hour, 30 minutes after each thing and just reviewed with each other. And it always just felt like after every single scrim, after every single thing, I was always getting better. So it was always a fun experience working with him.
Yeah, something that I think the NACL broadcast tried to really hone in on and focus on was just like how hardworking you were from everything that we were hearing behind the scenes. And I think that you just kind of describing that really kind of puts that into perspective. And also just going back to like, your early experience just learning the game and then eventually trying so hard to go pro. Is that something that you think you've always kind of had and um, really seen as like an advantage for yourself?
My work ethic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've always said I wouldn't even say I work there was some times where I wasn't working as hard as I could have on EG. That's probably one of my regrets. But overall, I'd say I've always said that you can think a player is better than me, or if you want to put us together, but I've always said like I guarantee in 6 months that I'll be way better than him because I'm just gonna outwork him. I'm always I think the one thing that even says gets said around here in Winthrop is that me and Denethor more than anybody and Kambang that every time you see us we're literally just in the lab like in here in the facility just always grinding solo queue, always watching videos, watching this, talking about the game. Those two have kind of the same work ethic where we're always just constantly trying to get better and always thinking, always outworking whoever's like our opponents in anything. We're just gonna outwork you. Is how I think that's an advantage for
Yeah,
me and them as well.
that was actually kind of part of my next question as we like kind of talk about finishing off at Evil Geniuses and coming back to Winthrop. You guys end up playing, in the championship bracket together, but some there's a lot of players right at Winthrop, and eventually who ended up kind of rising up to be the starters were you, Denethor, and Conveying, kind of this new class of players at Winthrop. Do you guys kind of have that sort of bond as being like kind of some of the new kids, and
Yeah.
what has that experience been like?
It's been very fun. We've been our own like little trio, I guess.
Nice.
Always around. Like I said, I think when nobody else is inside the lab, you can always find us three inside the lab, grinding solo queue or just joking around or going out to eat, playing solo queue, just talking about the game and doing anything around the game. I'd say us three, definitely have the same traits and like the same humor and same everything. So we a little trio.
Yeah,
Sure.
and on top of that, like, what's it like playing with like a 10-man roster in a way? Because there's a lot of different people kind of moving around Winthrop. Maybe the roster not necessarily, swapping players in and out, but there's a lot of people in that system that are really knowledgeable about the game, really good at the game, and always kind of hanging out with each other.
Yeah, I think me personally, I don't think 10-man rosters work. I think it's way too hard. But if it gets managed, if it was like a perfect world and you can manage it perfectly and all 10 players with the same skill, I think a 10-man player roster could work. But when there's skill discrepancies all over the place, but it's usually hard to make a 10-man roster work. With I usually think that's the problem with them. There's just too much, this player doesn't work with this player. Like there's too much of a gap here, and something like that. I'd say it was really hard at Winthrop because all of us were really good friends. Like when we would go to, let's say the spring finals, where we're just like 15 of us are inside an Airbnb, like everybody gets along and
Yeah.
nobody has any bad blood. But when it came to league, it's really hard to be like not upset or like, I feel like I'm better than this guy and he's just taking my spot, like something like that.
Hmm.
It's really hard to just work, and I think it can damage a lot of relationships and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's just we're good friends. It's just hard with league or just a competitive game to have 10 people trying to
Yeah.
compete for the same spot.
Yeah, it's that competition, as you were saying. It's just like always something that is interesting to think about because there's a bunch of schools that have kind of experimented with bringing on a lot of players, bringing on one roster, and I guess Winthrop is kind of on that earlier sense. So,
Yeah.
talking about a little bit more about like your championship run so far, up to the top eight. You have some new staff working with you. Artemis, formerly of Evil Geniuses, kind of coming on and helping you guys out. He's going to be in the studio with you guys later this week. I mean, what's it been like working with somebody with that level of experience? Obviously, you were part of Challengers, but now here at the collegiate level.
Yeah, I'd say me and him talk a lot in DMs, and me and him have whenever we do reviews or anything after scrims, we usually have pretty good ideas like together, and we vibe together. And I don't, I would say he is really good. He just brings good vibes to the team, and he always is. He's basically like a good mediator and gets to the next point or gets to like actual good points instead of us going around in circles of talking about nothing. I'd say that's been the biggest thing with him is because, and I'd say like before him during April, we ended up the roster kind of boomed a little bit, and we ended up having no coach.
Right.
Um, so we were actually just going to be a player-led team, but we, at least for the first week, we wanted to try and see what it'd be like. And then we slowly brought on Artemis, and all of us really liked him and thought he's really helpful, and it's been great so far.
Awesome. I'm excited to see you guys later on in this weekend when you guys play against Maryville University, which is your first matchup of the top four. I think a lot of people coming in, I know us on our show kind of are touting Maryville as kind of a big favorite heading into this top four weekend. Do you see it as that, or do you think that it's going to be a bit of a fight between you guys?
I don't see it like that. To like my genuine thought on what's gonna happen, I think we're gonna 3-0 them.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
Okay.
if you guys like, obviously you guys, I can't just sit here and like show scrims or show league, like that's not how
Yeah.
that works. But from how scrims go and stuff that we know about them and knowledge, I don't think they're as good as people think they are.
All right.
And I think we're gonna 3-0 them and 3-0 whoever's in the finals and just be undefeated.
That's awesome. I love the confidence. I hope that it ends up working out because I mean that would be really really fun. There's obviously a lot of history between Winthrop and Maryville. I guess you're not necessarily as much of the part of it, but the two schools have played against each other the past 2 years, meeting up again now in the semifinals. Yeah, I don't know. It should be a good time, and you guys are gonna be on the LCS stage. Of course, you were out in LA a little bit earlier this year, but is there anything special about like going out there and playing like on that stage on those computers with your teammates?
Yeah, it's a different feeling. Um, I didn't get to do it with EG. We played from the facility,
Hmm.
but we did get to go play at the spring finals. We got to go play on the stage and get a test of what it's like. And I
Oh,
felt
awesome.
very confident and comfortable being on stage, on those PCs, on the setup that they have. I think it's really easy to get comfortable. Um, so I'm pretty confident, pretty excited to play on it.
And there's some players that say, when they're on stage, they play so much better. Do you feel like that's going to happen when you step on for your first official matches a little bit later this week?
Yeah, yes. I have a lot of confidence that on stage we'll have the stage buff.
Dude, I'm so excited to see it. It's going to be a really, really good time. But before we wrap things up, I want to kind of just give you the floor a little bit because obviously you've had a pretty wild journey throughout this last year or so, as we kind of have chronicled over these past couple of minutes. But I mean, what's next for you after the CLOL? Like, what are some of the goals still? Trying to get as high of a level as possible, make it to the LCS, or are there other things that you're also looking to accomplish?
I mean, my ultimate goal is to be in LCS and win a world championship for NA. That's all. That's always going to be on my mind. But obviously, there's steps to that. I can't just win worlds right now. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's getting to that point and getting to be in that situation. But that's always going to be my long time goal. Um, I think I don't think people realize how good I got going to EG and how good I got mainly after I left EG. I got to kind of boot camp a little bit, still in NA, but I got to play on really low ping and boot camp for 2, 3 weeks and just grind solo queue and actually learn limits. I got a lot of, I'd say when I was on EG, I got a lot of unwarranted blame or hate. People just trying to say that just because I was a sub, they just kind of took the easy way out. Casters and like people sending me death threats, people running games down in my solo queue games, trying to say that like if you turn the game off, if you turn the screen off and just heard the casters or heard like what people were saying, you'd think I'm like literally the worst player in the world. For some games I was on there, but I definitely do not agree that I was the sole reason or even the main reason. But yeah, I just think definitely after I left, being able to boot camp and really learn limits and everything I learned from EG and Smoothie on how to be a leader and how to be a leader with speaking in game or actually speaking out of game and going through reviews and how to treat your teammates and everything you can do. Yeah, just everything that comes with a leader, just learning all of that just into one now. I just think I leveled up 10 times, like 20 times, 10 times, 20, whatever you want to say. Just so much more after leaving, like just getting all that experience, I'd say.
Some fiery words out of you. I'm really excited to see how this growth really progressed up against Maryville University, I believe this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Pacific. Mobility, do you have any one last message for any of the fans watching at home?
Uh, it's gonna be a sweep. It's gonna be a 3-0. See you guys in the finals.
All right, a bold prediction. Mobility, thank you very much for joining us. That's going to do it for this episode of the CLOL Files, and we'll see you next time.